We're officially on borrowed time. Pokebank will end, and with it, home compatibility from Gen 1 to Gen 7. And with no ports in sight, a slew of exclusive Pokemon vaulted with them.
And I love Pokemon just a tad too much to just sit down and not do anything.
So before it all truly ends, I'm going to show you how to get every obtainable Pokemon to Pokemon Home. Or as I like to call it, the home run. And just like baseball, we're playing by the book. No glitches. Except for that one, you know, because we need it. The hardware you'll need is a Nintendo 64 with a copy of Pokemon Stadium, a controller, a transfer pack, and your choice of Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow, a homebrewed 3DS with the Virtual Console games, PokeTransfer, and Pokebank. If you don't have another 3DS to trade with, then you'll need another transfer pack and game to trade with. You'll also need a card number to transfer the save to the 3DS, such as this Ben Ven, and optionally, a lifelong friend. We chose Yellow as the starting game because since it gives us all 3 starters throughout the story, it saves us 3 resets since Red, Blue, Yellow have no breeding. But before you even start, you're gonna want to switch your batteries because that is going to happen. Pokemon games of this gen run on static RAM, meaning if your battery dies, so does your save. And my terrible soldering work kept us restarting for like 9 times, so we opted to get the dual speed that is available on Stadium. To get this, you must complete either the Poke Cup or the Prime Cup, and to get the Dodrio 3 speed, you must complete both. And with all that out the way, we finally get our first Pokemon, the mascot himself, Pikachu. We name him Sparky and begin our journey. Now since we're on borrowed time and Pokebank can end any time after April, I figured that I'm not going to go one by one and I'm going to do this as efficiently as possible. If you choose Red and Blue, get your starter and go and catch every Pokemon on every route minus the Safari Zone and Legendaries, you will come out with roughly 93 Pokemon. If you choose Yellow, you will come out with 84. I could be wrong about these numbers. If I am, let me know. So that leaves us with the Safari Zone, Evolutions, Trades and Gifts, Legendaries, and Pokemon Stadium. So let's get into it. It was originally intended for the Safari Ball to be coded as an Ultra Ball. This did not end up happening, and so they are now coded as Pokeballs, thus making the Safari Zone incredibly difficult. Now there is a page on dragonflycave.com that will tell you the mechanics and calculate your chances on catching a Pokemon in the Safari Zone. It will also tell you that just chucking balls is your best option. However, I personally like to throw bait first and then chuck balls. The reason being is that I don't want to waste the encounter. I would rather keep it there and keep chucking balls rather than throw one and then waste more money trying to get another Chansey. Or in this case, Pinsir. Nonetheless, we pick up Execute, Nidorino and Nidorina, Parasect, Rhyhorn, Dratini, Dragonair, at level 15 might I add, Marowak, Kangaskhan, Tangela, Chansey, Scyther, Tauros, and Pinsir. Moving on to trades, we'll start with Yellow once again. Outside Diglett's Cave on Route 2, we'll trade a Clefairy for the only Mr. Mime in the game, Miles. We trade a Cubone and find out what happens when you finally catch Ricky at the Route 5 underground tunnel. At Route 11, we trade the very rare Lickitung for a very common Dugtrio named Gurio. On Route 18, we trade the also very rare Tangela for the very common Parasect named Spike. And in Cinnabar Lab, we trade a Golduck for Buffy the Bird Slayer, a Growlithe for Sazan the Dugong, and the very difficult Kangaskhan for Sticky the Muck. Moving on to Red and Blue, we trade an Abra for Marcel on Route 2, a male Nidoran for Spot the female Nidoran on Route 5, a Nidorino for Terry the Nidorina on Route 11, on Route 18, a Slowbro for the only Lickitung in Red and Blue, Mark, in Cerulean, a simple Poliwhirl for the only Jinx in all 3 games, Lola, in Vermilion, a Spearow for the only Farfetch'd in these 2 games, Dux, and once again in the Cinnabar Lab, a Ponytail for Sailor the Seal, a Raichu for Doris the Electrode, and a Venonat for Crinkles the Tangela. Gifts are simple. You have your starter, the Bulbasaur in Cerulean City once your Pikachu's friendship is high enough, the Charmander on Route 24, the Squirtle Officer Jenny gives you after you beat Lieutenant Surge, the Eevee through the back door of the Celadon Mansion, Lapras in Silphco, the Hitmon of your choice once you beat the Fighting Dojo, the Fossil of your choice from Mount Moon, and the Old Amber to resurrect Aerodactyl. As for the prize Pokemon, we buy the Magikarp inside the Mount Moon Pokemon Center for 500, and save the game corner for a little bit later. Now before we get to evolutions, we're going to have to do a couple things. We're going to have to restart the game 8 times. Remember, since there's no breeding in Gen 1, you only get one of all those gift Pokemon that you just got. Meaning, if you want all the starters and their evolutions, you're going to have to restart at least 8 times for Red and Blue, and 6 if you're playing Yellow with Red or Blue. This also goes for Eevee, the Fossils, and Hitmons. Now I know it may seem a lot, but it gets real simple once you follow this simple flowchart. Get your starter. Get Nidoran Male. Evolve Nidoran to Nidorino before Mount Moon. Get the Moonstone inside of Mount Moon. Evolve it before level 23 for it to learn Thrash. Get your missing fossil. Thrash, 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 until Kogo blows himself up and you can use Surf. Get your missing Eevee. Get your missing Hitmon. Revive your fossil at Cinnabar. And collect any version unobtainables. In Yellow's case, Weedle, Ekans, Raichu, Meowth, Vulpix, Koffing, Electabuzz, and Magmar. And now with that out the way, we're finally ready to start evolving everything. With the Yellow Gift starters already Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise respectively, we evolve our other batch of starters to get Ivysaur, Charmeleon, and Wartortle at level 16. We get Pidgeot at level 36, Butterfree at 10, Hypno at 26, Gyarados at 20, Kabutops and Omastar at 40, and Rapidash at 40. And for the unobtainables, we get Beedrill at 10 and Persian at 28. We use the 4 in-game Moonstones to get Nidoking, Nidoqueen, Clefable, and Wigglytuff. We take a trip to the Celadon department store and pick up 3 Leaf Stones to evolve Vileplume, Executor, and Victreebel. We get 4 Water Stones for Vaporeon, Poliwrath, Cloyster, and Starmie, a Thunderstone for Jolteon, and 3 Firestones for Arcanine, Ninetales, and Flareon. As for the trade evolutions, Pokemon Stadium has this nice little feature that allows you to trade Pokemon between 2 transfer packs and 2 controllers. Using this, we get Gengar, Alakazam, Golem, and Machamp. We catch Articuno at the Seafoam Islands, Zapdos at the Power Plant, Moltres in Victory Road, and Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. And since we have Mewtwo, we can efficiently tackle Porygon and Dragonite. If you put your Dratini in the daycare as soon as you catch it, it should be a manageable level once you're ready to do this. To get Porygon in Pokemon Yellow, you need 9,999 coins from the game corner. If you buy all the coins, this comes out to about 200,000 Pokédollars. And the only place to get that type of cash is the Elite Four. Now every run through the Elite Four gets you 29,799 Pokédollars, which means you'll have to go through the Elite Four about 7 times. Now to make this a whole lot more manageable, we use Pokemon Stadium's Dodrio Speed, which we obtain after completing both the Poke and Prime Cup. This makes getting all those Pokédollars a whole lot more easier, and eventually we get my favorite Gen 1 Pokemon, Porygon. By the way, this is Bill, and his goal is to become the greatest Porygon of all time. You'll be seeing a lot of him later on. Now even though we got Porygon, Dratini, or rather Dragonair maybe, is still not Dragonite. So we keep on trucking, and after getting enough money for 2 Porygons, we get the elusive Dragonite. And with the Mew that we got from the Cerulean glitch, that's it. We caught them all. All 151 original Pokemon. But there's still more to obtain in Kanto, so we move on to the hardest challenge in the entire region, Pokemon Stadium. After clearing the Elite Four and your rival in the Gym Leader Challenge, you'll be awarded 1 prize Pokemon at random. The prize can be one of 8 Pokemon: Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, Eevee, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, Kabuto, or Omanite, each with the OT of Stadium and the trainer ID 02000, True Millennium Pokemon. The 6 Pokemon that you did this with will also get inducted into the Stadium Hall of Fame. And once you put all 151 Pokemon in the Stadium Hall of Fame, you'll get a special prize Pokemon. And what is the ultra rare Pokemon for such an unsurmountable task? Psyduck, with the illegal move Amnesia. I love it so much, it's so Gen 1. Of course it'd be Psyduck! So the easiest way to get all these prize Pokemon is simply use the world's strongest Pokemon. Now you're going to want to do 2 things first. Level up your Mewtwo to at least 81 for it to learn Amnesia, and get rid of Barrier for either Thunderbolt or Ice Beam. For this video's sake, we'll be going with Thunderbolt. The game plan is simple. Amnesia twice so it forgets how to lose. Destroy everything with either Psychic or Thunderbolt. And recover when needed. So with everything ready, let's get into it. Everything from here on out will be started on a first turn basis. With Thunderbolt, Lorelei is simple. If it's Dugong, it can't do anything, set up and sweep. This also goes for Jinx. Lapras will try and para-confuse you, which can be a problem if Cloyster is in the back, but if you can Amnesia and T-Ball through it, you should be good. Slowbro will T-Wave you immediately, so it can be as problematic as Lapras if Cloyster is in the back. If it's not, however, Slowbro can't do anything to you, so set up freely. Articuno can only drop your speed, set up. And even though I have no clips of it, Cloyster knows Explosion, so if she sends it out, switch back in, set up. Or if you're already set up, delete it. Bruno is arguably the easiest of the bunch. Everything outside of Rhydon and Golem can be deleted without Amnesia. If it's Golem, you can't live a crit explosion, so switch out, switch back in, press Amnesia once in case of Rhydon, delete. Now if it's Rhydon, you have to worry about the 30% Body Slam para, which you will use to start fishing for Horn Drills and Fissures. All you can do is Amnesia once and hope that you don't get parried. And then Agatha is practically the same as Bruno, in the sense that everything goes down to raw Psychic except for Venusaur and Gengar. And then comes the Dragon Master. Lance only has one free setup Pokemon, and that's Kangaskhan. That's since I've only really seen it use Dizzy Punch, and in Gen 1 Dizzy Punch does not confuse. You can set up against Gyarados, but you risk Body Slam para. But the number one thing you need to worry about on Lance's team is Dragonair. If you're parried, it will wrap. If you're not parried, it will T-Wave and then wrap. And it will continue wrapping, and wrapping, and wrapping, and wrapping, and wrapping, until the world's strongest Pokemon is dead. This slow, agonizing death can take as long as 13 minutes. The same rules go for Charizard because of Fire Spin, but Fire Spin is less accurate than Wrap, so you can break through occasionally. And this is a special case. I've never seen Aerodactyl start, but Aerodactyl will always outspeed you. So make sure you have enough health, because it will always Hyper Beam. Your rival is a pretty cool special case. If you have Yellow in the transfer pack as you fight him, his team will be determined on if you won or lost in Oaks Lab and on Route 22. As for Red and Blue, his team is determined on your starter. And to be honest, he's not that hard. It's just that Executor is a force of destruction. Out of all the Pokemon you will fight, including Dragonair, Executor has the #1 chance of ending your run. Executor has the Shaq and Kobe combo of Toxic and Leech Seed. And since Gen 1 is Gen 1, the amount of damage it produces is absolutely abhorrent. And since Executor walls our entire moveset, this combo is a death sentence. The only true thing you can do is set up Amnesia on the same turns it sets up Toxic and Leech Seed. After then, I swear this is the only time in Pokemon you'll ever hear this, you do not want a crit. Crits in Gen 1 are not affected by multipliers, therefore even though you pressed Amnesia twice, it will not be added to the crit, making a crit a death sentence. And I'll be honest with you, I've never beat turn 1 Executor with this moveset. I've only beat it on turn 2. And actually, through a special case, this is the only time where you would want to get paralyzed by Magneton, since it erases the chance of Toxic. Outside of Executor, everything else is a free setup. Alakazam will Seismic Toss until you've set up. Arcanine will Hyper Beam. Sandslash and Vaporeon physically cannot do anything to you, so set up freely. And once you've ran through the gauntlet and dodged RNG about 30 times, you'll come out with potentially 30 prizes and one of the rarest Pokemon to ever exist, the Amnesia Psyduck. Every single one of these Pokemon has a chance to be shiny as well, so check your DVs. And with that, we have obtained every individual Pokemon in Gen 1, or at least in the West.
ねえねえ、私のポケットモンスターと勝負しない？
Bonus stage.
So again, we're on borrowed time, and this is going to be the last time I'm going to be able to do this until further notice, so I figured I should show some true respect and catch some Pokemon where this all truly started. Pocket Monsters, Red, Green, Blue, and Yellow. As far as unique Pokemon go, Pocket Monsters Blue has the most. This is because Pocket Monsters Red and Green are practically Pokemon Red and Blue. They are not exact because even though Pokemon Red and Blue use Red and Green's Pokemon tables, they run off Pocket Monster Blue's game engine.
making Pokémonsters Blue the only Japanese exclusive Gen 1 game. In there, we pick up all the in-game trades. Please forgive me if I botch these Japanese names. Masaru, Romotan, Rodan, Gyuta, Kosuke, Aka, Saburo, Oscar, and Doraku. We catch the only wild Jinx across all 7 games in Seafoam Islands, and we rescue a very special Pikachu from the Game Corner. Pikachu is a Game Corner prize only in Pokémonsters Blue, and his name is Toa. Him and Bill will be attempting the very hard task of going through every single Pokemon game. So please stay tuned and see how that goes. There is nothing different in yellow, but in red and green, there is a single unique Pokemon. That being the Route 6 Underground Path trade. Instead of a female Nidoran like red and blue, you get a male Nidoran named Chappie. And then on to Pokémonster Stadium 2. 2? Yes, 2. The original Pokémonster Stadium was a much harder version of Pokémonster Stadium 2, consisting of only 40 of the original 151 Pokemon. Along with the only transferable thing is teaching Surf to your Pikachu. This can also be done in the US version of Pokemon Stadium. But the reason why we're here is because the Pokémonster Stadium prizes slightly differ from the Pokemon Stadium prizes. Instead of it being O2000, it is a very 90s O1999. And given the fact that even if I do get transfer pack access on Pokemon Stadium on the Switch, I'm definitely not even getting access to Pokémonster Stadium 2. So I went through the whole RNG gauntlet again, and here it comes, 90s Pokemon! Now we have one final Pokemon to catch, and this is honestly just me being sentimental, and it's Rhydon. Rhydon was one of, if not the first Pokemon ever created, along with the fact that it has the index number of 001, meaning that it was most likely the first Pokemon ever coded. And for me to catch it in its original form in the game that came out in '96 is just my way of telling the creators who built Rome, thank you. So now the question comes, how do we get all of these Pokemon to home? The first thing you're going to need is a cart dumper. I personally use this Ben Ven, link in bio. You're also going to need a modded 3DS with checkpoint. When you plug in your Ben Ven to the computer, you'll see the save file as a .save. Copy it and put it somewhere safe on your computer. In order for the 3DS to read it, the save file needs to be converted into a save.dat file. There are multiple ways of doing this, but I personally like to do it through VBA. Once you export your cartridge save, make sure you save it as SAV. Now go into checkpoint and restore it. And once you've done that, your cartridge save is now on your 3DS. Isn't technology incredible? Now before you use PokeTransporter, there are a couple Pokemon that might be blocked. Those Pokemon are Mew if you haven't done the 8F glitch, the Amnesia Psyduck because it's an illegal move, and Surfing Pikachu for the same reason. You can simply replace Amnesia on Psyduck, but for Pikachu, Surf is an HM, so you're gonna have to send it to Pokemon Stadium 2 and have it removed through the game's move relearner. So if you want to use your yellow Pikachu in Scarlet Violet right now, don't teach it Surf, transfer it to Scarlet Violet and then teach it Surf. The only problem is that Scarlet Violet doesn't have the best surfing sprite to ever exist.
Oh!
And once you've gotten those things out the way, you're good to go. And as you can see here, the Amnesia Psyduck is in Scarlet Violet, Game Boy icon and all. One interesting thing to note though, when you transfer a Stadium Pokemon to Pokemon Home or any game that has IVs, they have an incredibly high IV rate with locked natures. Along with the fact that Game Boy icon Pokemon have their hidden ability, makes the Charmander and Bulbasaur prizes some of the most useful prizes to ever exist. As for the Japanese Pokemon, your only real option is to upload them to Ultra Sun and Moon through PK Hex. The reason being is because the Japanese have a different transporter called Pokemover. As far as I can find, without another Japanese 3DS with Pokemover, this is your only option to transfer your own caught Japanese Pokemon. So if you don't like this part, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have some fun. And on that note, now it's your turn to have the ultimate Kanto adventure. As for this channel, we're going into a whole new world. We'll be streaming all of Gen 2 right here on YouTube. So if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. This has been Porygon's Pokédex, and I'll see you on Route 29.